Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining, ladies. We're just gonna walk through some of the thought process of where we got with the application as opposed to years in the past, and then just kind of the nitty-gritty of the functionality of the application. Liz and Erica, feel free, once you start diving into the library application, just reach out and I can help answer more specific questions to your organization. And kind of, that's where we can give more guidance to applications, but this is just more because it's a new software. I want everyone to feel comfortable, and I'm learning it with you all, so I appreciate you coming along on the journey.
Thank you for doing this.
No problem. Let's see. There it goes. So we'll just kind of walk through how we budgeted this year. We've kind of made a few changes, which you all have been familiar with because you're all very in tune to what happens here in our office. Some logistics of this upcoming funding cycle, the resources that are available, and then I'll walk through the actual software and the application itself. And feel free to interrupt at any time as questions come up too. So we've started to split our budget into these three categories of government, nonprofit, and reserves. So Ashley, if you're here as biz trip, you would fall into government services, nonprofits, the library, and kind of the funding that the community is used to seeing in those June allocation meetings. And then reserves is we've set money aside for capital, operating, and emergency reserves. Capitals to help us prepare for the CIP. And those projects outlined in there. Emergency reserves are what we use to help us with Big Say relief and COVID-19 and all of that fun excitement. And then operating reserves is just 3 months of our expenses should things get very dire. The government and the nonprofit is where the allocation money is coming from, and kind of where this June process or this application process fits into these budget categories. The budget process is taking place pretty much almost year round. The board's making decisions all the time about our budget and our funding. So within this recent fiscal year, we began back in August following up from the June allocations for FY24 funding. They kind of worked through how they want the budget to look, where they want their money to go, and the prioritizing. The result of all that work was that resolution that we adopted at the last meeting. And it kind of outlines all the procedures, the rules, and then as well as how we're going to allocate the funds to the impact areas that we're all familiar with. And then also at the meeting last month, last February, the board committed about 1.4 to our reserves, again, in those categories of operating, emergency, and capital. Next week, we'll start reviewing our own operating budget as well for the upcoming fiscal year, which will start in July, the same as this allocation cycle. And then moving forward to May, the funding decisions around the governments will be decided, April through May, and then nonprofit will be in June. Here's all the key dates for the two different application processes that we have open right now. These are all on our website, resorttax.org/funding, but just so that everyone has them front of mind, here's all of the key dates to jot down and make note of in your calendars. The two applications that will be opening, government services opened on the 1st, nonprofit opens next week on the 15th. Government entities can apply for 3-year operational funding, so that's for FY25, FY26, and FY27. And then capital, there's a typo in there, sorry. And then capital requests for FY25. And then for nonprofit and non-governmental entities, they can apply for fiscal year funding of this upcoming our fiscal year, FY25, for programming, capital, or administration, very similar to how it's been done in the past. This is our second 3-year cycle with the government entities. Here's how the board allocated to the impact areas outlined in that resolution. Again, I wish I had a more firm answer of when we know the dollar amounts that'll be tied to these, but it likely won't be until May or June. Just because we wanna wait for collections, cause we're allocating money that's currently being collected in this fiscal year. But again, using last year's numbers will kind of give people a rough idea. I have lots of resources for you all. I am also a resource and available. But all of the main resources can be found on the funding page. I'll hop over here in a second and show them to you all. The portal, we have switched to submittable. It's a little confusing in this transitionary period where there's still some stuff in our old portal. But I'll be sure to send that link out to the new portal to everyone. It's also on the website. The orientation packet, some light bedtime reading for everyone, but there's lots of helpful information in there. You all are fairly familiar with the process, but anyone that's new, I do encourage everyone to kind of read through that. There's a lot of helpful information. Since we have switched softwares to Submittable, they offer technical support, which they are much more technical than I am. I'm happy to help answer questions about the process and decision making and all of that, but if there's some weird technical glitch, their support is there to help with that. They're available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They're a Montana company, so they also operate in Mountain Time. And then that resolution is on there with all of the new procedures, rules, and methodology. That's where you can find the eligibility requirements, the scoring criteria, and other exhibits. The link to schedule time with me is on there. I'm also totally open to phone calls, emails, all of that. But if you schedule time, you got a half hour to meet with me and hopefully Danny as well to walk through things. And then I will post this recording on there. But if you go to our website, the funding page, it's all on here. This is kind of the resource, one-stop shop for all applicants. The recording will be here when we're done. Again, we're switching softwares. It's called Submittable. It looks slightly different. If your organization has applied using Submittable for a different grant, you can use the same login. So your login actually at BSCO is not unique to the resort tax application. It's for all of them, any grants that you've applied for. Within the last year, all of the local community foundations have switched over to Submittable. So if you've gone after any grants from any of them, your organization will already have a login with them, so you can just keep using that. And then it's kind of nice, so you can keep track of all your different applications across different entities as well. And then we'll just kind of dive in to the logistics of the application. Liz, Erica, Ashley, any questions so far?
Nope.
I'm good.
So this is what the homepage will look like. The testing application is solely just for today. And then starting the 15th, the nonprofit one will be up here as well. You'll see the due dates on all of them. You can find out more information, guidelines, all of that on them. This is kind of where all the information we just went over. If you were new to this and stumbled across this grant, you would know what you're applying for. So if you haven't applied using Submittable, you'll have to set up an account tied to your email. See. Nope, sign up, not even doing it right. That works. That's what match. So once you've created an account, doesn't even, you'll have to verify your email, so you will get an email letting you know. So make sure that you're not a robot trying to hack our system. And you'll be able to just enter your credentials that you just created and sign in. Sorry, I'm learning along with you guys. Hopefully it doesn't take you to that submission page. It should just bring you here. And then you can go ahead and hit submit to begin the application. Why is this? Sorry, we're working through glitches together here.
If you click proceed to form,
Proceed to form. No? Confirm email. That's why. Read the emails that you actually receive from them and don't click through them. Okay, now we're good. So for both government and nonprofit, this is where you can find just kind of the nitty-gritty rules and important information about them. They're very similar. The dates are just slightly different. Because the timelines are a couple weeks off of each other. Things will be linked out to other resources. You can go to that packet, the resolution, schedule time with me, all of that good stuff. The kind of single source of truth for dates and information will be that funding page. Just it's so I don't have to update it in several places, but I'll alert at people if any changes are made, but we'll do our best to stick to all the dates and times of things that we have set for this process. And then again, for both government and nonprofit, you'll have to go through the acknowledgements first. So you'll have to complete those before you can dive into the actual questions on the application. There's no approval on my end on the back end. So once you complete it and all of the required boxes are filled in, you'll be able to move forward with it. And they're very similar between the two forms for government versus nonprofit as well. These are just all of the things that you'll have to agree to by applying for funding with us. Sorry, the screen share thing's right in my way. Make sure you are eligible and can meet all of the legal requirements to make sure that you're eligible for funding and check all of the boxes. Again, all of these, you just have to actually acknowledge them to be able to move forward. Again, you can link out to all these resources. This one in particular, links out to the resolution. One thing to know, everything that is submitted through this application process is public information. We are a public entity, so everything is entered into the public record. So just know that it will be available publicly. Acknowledging the scoring system. This year this applies to nonprofits. We're not going to evaluate the government entities using the scoring system. But those, again, you can link out and view them here. As you're filling out the application, I do recommend having the scoring system and the application orientation packet available as you're filling it out. All of the important dates, please know that we do request that at least one executive level employee or board member is at both of the review meetings. In the case of governments, that'll be the April board meeting and then the May meeting as well, and then the June dates for the nonprofits. All of the dates are on our website. The follow-up materials here, this is kind of just agreeing to once you apply for funding, knowing that there will be follow-up. We'll send, if funding is awarded, a contract will be created for each project. We ask that those are returned on July 30th. The board of directors may or may not put contingencies, but those will be built into the contract. We'll establish contract dates based on the application. For nonprofits, it's typically July 1 to July 15 of the next year. Governments will obviously be on that 3-year calendar for their operational requests. And then funding is on a reimbursement basis, so you'll have to submit for reimbursement. We don't pay out grant awards in a lump sum. The payment request will be, or how you request that funding as it comes through. This just kind of outlines the process. Once funding awards are made, I'll reach out with more details on the nitty-gritty of how to request funding. We just want folks to know what they are getting into and agreeing to by seeking funding through our application. Couple extra resources that we link out to here. Again, that orientation packet. I encourage you to have it handy while you're filling it out. Your application, especially the glossary, there's a lot of clarity provided in those. And then the latest version of the Our Big Sky strategy is just always a good resource to have. And then once you have checked everything, you'll be good. As long as you meet all the acknowledgements and agree to them. No, oh, shoot. I'm sorry, you guys, this is not set up right. Give me 1 second. It's gonna be a terrible recording. I promise the government and the nonprofit forms are set up correct, and you will get a message saying that you are eligible because you have checked all the boxes. The only reason you wouldn't get it is if you missed one, which it just wouldn't even let you complete the form. So then once you're in, you'll be able to begin the application form. Again, if you have specific questions tied to your request or your organization, we'll save those for later. Schedule time with me, call me, email me. I just want to get you all familiar with the actual form itself and what you'll kind of be seeing, because it's a little different than the software we've used in the past. So this is just set up to kind of show you all the different types of questions that you'll see in an application. You'll see these shorter answer questions. This will be more like for your project name or a shorter type of thing, not super long. As you're filling out the application, notice that down here below the question itself is where you'll find any instructions. At times, I'll link out to resources if they tie to that, particularly to the glossary if there's some terms in there. And for the nonprofit applications, this is where we'll tell you, we'll use this response to establish your matching fund score or whatever the scoring criteria is, and same with the eligibility requirements. So just fill them in as you're going through. You'll notice some of these open field questions, these longer ones, this is more for the narrative type questions, a description of your project, any more information on it. You'll be able to format your responses using this bar here as you're filling it out. Notice that some questions have asterisks, those are required. The system won't let you submit with required questions not filled out. So you will need to enter some information into all of the questions. Multiple choice questions may be set up a few different ways. Sometimes you may have a drop-down menu where you can choose your different options. Kind of just depended on my mood, which way I set it up, honestly. If there's ever a choose more than one response, you'll see these check boxes. Typically, there will be a none of the above response at the bottom. On both the government and nonprofit applications, they're kind of choose your own adventure. So based on your responses, you may see different questions for different categories. For example, if you have a construction question or a project where that requires construction, we're gonna ask additional detail. But only if you're requesting a construction project will you then see those questions. So here, for example, if I choose this first option, you'll see that another question pops up. So if you feel like you're seeing information you shouldn't, or you're missing questions, just let me know and I'll make sure that there's not something glitching or that the right boxes are checked. So on and so forth. But then, so if, say that option 1 didn't apply to you, you wouldn't see this additional information question below. On occasion, we'll ask applicants to upload files such as like budget and different financial statements. For if anyone wants to prep before, we'll be requiring the same financial statements that we did on last year's application. If those require extra reporting or polling, you can get those done ahead of time. So you'll just have to upload a file here using the choose file button. It'll work in non-preview mode, I promise. The biggest difference on functionality this year is these table questions. So in the past, you had to download an Excel file and re-upload it. So they'll look like this. You can make them bigger using this little arrow if you want to. You can type responses into any of these cells that don't already have information here. If there's something that doesn't apply to you for whatever reason, you don't need to fill it in. You'll just have to enter at least one field for it to be considered that you entered as a response. You can either leave it blank or you could put NA or 0 if something doesn't apply to you. A lot of the table questions are set up with formulas. So for example, on this one, column 5 is just summing your responses. So you can't manipulate any of these responses. Those are just more on the back end for us to be able to run reports and information on them. So you'll see a few different types of questions as tables throughout. Most like the sponsor worksheet that we had you all fill out last year is in table questions, as well as that project budget. It's just a little easier to enter it that way, so you don't have to download and re-upload. One thing that's a little tricky and not super intuitive with this is sometimes the tables are bigger than you can view on your screen. So if you ever, make sure you scroll through using the side one and the bottom one to make sure that you're filling in all of the information. Again, you can expand it, but it's still easy to miss categories or rows or columns. So just make sure you're double checking that everything is in there. There'll be times, number of questions, for example, how much are you requesting for this? Just know that you can't use commas or periods. It's just straight numbers. So if you're running into any glitches, it's probably because if you're trying to type 25,000, drop the comma and it should go in there. So those are all the question types. Any questions on the questions?
Nope.
Well, just a few pointers and tips and tricks as you're filling it out. Before applying, visit the funding page. You all attending today are very familiar with the process. I do suggest just at least flipping through the application orientation packet, very similar to last year's. Just the new thing is really that resolution, but just some helpful information in there. Make sure to add all the key dates onto your calendar and then schedule time with me. You can go ahead and schedule that time now or wait until questions come up as you're filling out the application. And as I mentioned at the January meeting, I'm available. Reach out to me as much as you need to. I'm more than happy to help. Just a few other tips and tricks, again, to hammer home. Keep that packet open while you're filling it out, especially the glossary. That'll kind of help you know how we're using certain terms. Keep a running list of any questions that you have and just reach out to me as they come up. You can invite collaborators to your application. So if you have someone in your organization that you want to have help with the application, you can invite them to collaborate with you. There is a collaborate button at the top of the screen. Just know, for example, Liz, if you're the one that starts the application, you need to submit it. Erica can help collaborate, but you'll need to be the one that submits it. So whoever starts it has to be the one that submits it. And then whoever starts it and whoever's email that's tied to, that's who will get all the notifications just from the system. I do my best to reach out to everyone at each entity when it's actually me emailing, but the system will just send it to whoever's name and email is tied to the initial application. You're more than welcome to, it's up to each organization. If you want to set the application up to be like an info at email so that anyone can access it, or you could set it up as Ashley and invite Whitney to collaborate or whoever, but just everyone kind of do that however they feel best. Again, just contact me if stuff comes up. There is support for the software. Again, just if there's weird things, there may be times if something comes up, I may send you to them. But you can find it here. You can reach out to them. They have normal FAQs, or you can email them. They try to respond within 24 hours. So that resource is there. It is also on that funding page. I'll bake it into the application too, so everyone has it on easy access. As you're filling out the application, make sure to read the eligibility requirements to make sure that you actually fit the criteria that we have set. And since we've launched using a scoring system, we recommend scoring yourself. Again, it should be pretty straightforward as you're filling out the application. It'll say, we will use this information to create this score. That's something I'm more than happy to talk through with applicants during those one-on-one sessions too, to kind of help you understand how your information will be used to create a score. Please don't wait till the last minute to submit your application. I believe it's one of them, the deadline is on a Sunday, just because we usually open things on the 1st and close on the 15th. This just makes sure if you have any weird technical glitches, you're able to contact the submittable support team and they'll be able to respond to you. Again, they work business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then if you have any questions for me, again, just please give yourself a couple days ahead of time before the deadline to submit it. Just better safe than sorry. Couple questions. Can you save your application? It does auto save, but you can save it and come back to it at any time. You'll have a little dashboard and it'll show all of your applications in process. If you're requesting funds for more than one project, totally fine. In terms of government entities, you'll only need to fill out one application for the 3-year funding and then a separate application for each capital request. So if there's more than one. And then nonprofit entities, it's a unique application for each project. So the more projects, the more applications. There are instructions in there. You'll just repeat the process that we went through on each of them. You'll need to fill out the acknowledgements each time, unfortunately. But we do ask for that sponsoring information, your budget, and all of that information that would apply to BSCO or the library as a whole. You do not need to fill that out every time. We only need that once. But the application kind of walks you through that. So we don't need your budget 5 times if you're applying for 5 projects, just to keep it a little easier. When will your application be reviewed? I'll begin reviewing everything after the deadline, just to make sure that it's in there. As you're filling it out, if you want Danny and I to go through it, just schedule time with us and we can kind of walk through your application. All the key dates can be found on the funding page. I think we even have the dates that we'll be sending Q&A back and forth between applicants as well. And then if you miss the submission deadline, again, just submit it early if you are able to. Any applications received after the deadline will not be given to the board. They'll be considered ineligible, whether they're government or nonprofit. So it is a hard deadline in this case. And then as you're filling it out, the bottom, there'll be instructions for submitting the application or depending on, again, choose your own adventure path with the application, instructions to submit another application if you're requesting funding for 2, 3, 4 projects. And you can always save draft, and then once you're ready to submit, you can hit submit when it comes to us. Just know once you hit submit, it is with me. I can send it back, but just sit on it for a couple days, proof it, do all of that good stuff as you're filling it out.
On this, so say you do have multiple projects, you have to submit project one before you get instructions on how to submit project two.
I don't believe so. I think you can start more than one.
Okay.
But let me double check on that. I believe you can have them going
Okay.
at the same time.
And then since I do this trip and be a CO, can I just use one login? For both government and nonprofit? 'Cause like on the old system, I have to have two different email addresses.
Let me find out on that one too,
Okay.
because I was wondering the same thing
Okay.
with that one. I don't know if they need, and then I guess Liz, for your day job with the chamber and Visit Big Sky, I'll find out
Okay.
about that if they need.
Two different like. email
Yeah,
addresses.
2 different emails. I'll double check.
I think for me, Brad will probably do the Visit Big Sky and then I'll collaborate with him on that. So,
Okay, yeah, and I'll just find out, because there's a couple entities where people do fill out applications for multiple organizations. I'll double check on that. That was a lot of information. Again, sorry everything wasn't working perfectly. I didn't test my test, but Erica and Liz, do you have any questions?
nope, not right now.
No, I don't.
Cool. Well, that's that. I appreciate you all joining, and just, yeah, reach out as stuff comes up and I'll find out about the emails and the applications and I'll let you guys know.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you all.